watch this together. We need to, hold on. That ain't right. There we go. Hold on. Get this set up. Wrong one. Okay, hold up. He ain't finna get no jail time, partner. It's not happening. Not jail time. I'm gonna show y'all. We're gonna watch this together. Let YouTube get their little couple minutes out the way, though. It's something I gotta do. Well, they don't mess with me. Hold up. Nope. Go down. Okay. That ain't what I'm trying to do. Okay. At least it's set up, so it don't matter. Yeah, we gotta watch this. Well, I'm at 1minute and 48 seconds. What I gotta wait? I don't know why I'm supposed to wait 5 minutes. I don't know, but I'm gonna wait 5 minutes. It's crazy. Who think he going to jail? I want to know. He ain't going to jail. We finna watch this. Oh, we finna watch this. I'm just giving YouTube that little couple minutes. That's 34, right? Yeah, 34 counts. Come on, man. 34. No. Sentencing, supposed to be sentencing on July. No, what? June? Supposed to be sentencing on June. So hold on. Cause I don't, nah. Park over there. So that's supposed to be sentencing in June. Where I'm at, I ain't hit 5 minutes yet. No, I ain't hit 5 minutes yet. He ain't going to jail. He not going. I'm gonna wait for these 5 minutes and then I'm gonna watch it because there ain't no way to watch that without cursing. Ain't no way to watch that without cursing. Not for me, anyway. This nigga, y'all, I don't see how y'all do. Trump is a nigga. I don't care what nobody say. He getting away with, this finna be the first time I've seen some shit. Y'all show me a black person. Matter of fact, let's say black man. Just a black man that you can name. They got convicted of 34 felonies and they ain't gonna do no jail time. 34. I don't care. And then, so the felonies are classified. Like all felonies are. They get classified. So the felony, they classified it as a Class E felony, which I don't even know what that is. I never even heard of one. I think they made up a July 11, yeah. I think they made up a term. I mean, I don't know. They might have a Class E felony. I ain't never met nobody that got a Class E felony. If you got a felony, you got a felony. He got Class E felony. That's what they broke it down to. Class E. That's what he guilty of. A Class E felony. So you're not going to jail for that. I'm at 5 minutes yet. Almost. Yeah, you're not going to jail for Class E felony. And if If anybody like me, you ain't even know what a Class E felony was. So the worst he gonna get is like some kind of, he might get house arrest where he got a leg bracelet on and he gonna have to deal with the house arrest situation. But he getting house arrest for 34 felonies. It's no doubt. He's not gonna do no jail time. That's already. I'm finna show y'all. Hold on. He ain't doing no jail time. Even Joe Biden came out and released a statement and told everybody like, nah, this ain't over. It's he's still the Republican candidate. Like Joe Biden said that. This is after the conviction. He done been convicted. 34 felonies. Class E felonies, what they call them. Joe Biden, I'm finna show y'all. You gotta listen to the statement that Joe Biden put out, in that the attorneys and the judges are telling you he not gonna do no jail time. Even though he just got convicted of 34 felonies. Yeah, 34. But they consider Class E. So I want y'all to look that up. Anybody, look it up. Class E felonies. I ain't never even heard of that, but it's some shit. It's some shit they made up. So a Class E felony. Before I even cut this on and we watch this, what's happening? Salute. Before I even cut it on and we start watching it, I want y'all to realize. Yeah, no. Listen. A Class E felony. When y'all get off here, if y'all want to do it right now, go look up, find a black man that got a Class E felony. I bet you his ass did jail time. I ain't never even heard of a Class E felony until now. I'm from the streets. My niggas got, I guess that's Class A felonies. They got shit. But this nigga got 34 charges. Felony charges. But you hear felony and you think, oh, that's his ass. No, it's Class E felonies. It's some shit that we ain't never even heard of. You feel me? Like, this ain't no regular. I'm finna show y'all. What? It is the best part of the blunt. I like the end. I want Well, my boy said, I done seen niggas get their whole life together with this little piece of blunt right here. This all you need, this much. I'm gonna finish smoking. I'm almost done. Then we finna watch it. We finna watch it. This the crazy shit to me. The nigga just got it. I call everybody nigga. White people, Asian people, Mexican, whatever. This nigga just got convicted. Today. He thought he was finna go home. They thought they were leaving with no verdict. They thought they was finna go with no verdict. The judge come back in and say, hold on. I just got word the jury. I just got word the jury has a verdict. So this nigga was laughing with his attorneys and shit. They high-fiving. They finna go on boats and whatever the fuck they finna do. And they thinking it's gonna be a while for the verdict. Jury came right the fuck back. All that laughing and shit stopped. This nigga, y'all gonna hear. We finna watch it. He's studying every juror that come in. After they read the guilty verdict, his attorney asked for each juror individually to say yes that they said guilty. You know what I'm saying? This nigga, they saying like he's sitting there like studying each juror, run about like, you know, trying to, man, I don't want to say like no threat shit. All I'm saying, if it had been a black man in that hole, this shit wouldn't have went like this. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. So July 11th, yeah. So that's a week after. Yeah, that's a week after the 4th of July. And let me tell you something, everybody gonna be lined up like something finna happen to him because they gonna wanna, watch the sentencing. He finna get sentenced. Bruh, it ain't finna be no jail time from what they saying, bruh. With 34 felonies. If I'm the only one that finds that shit fucking outrageous and crazy and just sound crazy, I'll take that. But nigga, you got convicted. This ain't allegedly no more. Ain't nothing about this alleged. He's convicted. 34 felonies. You convicted. And nigga ain't finna do no jail time. I'm finna show y'all. Like, this is what I've been smoking and looking at today. Like, this nigga really finna not do no jail time with 34 felonies. And trying to understand why and how is that even possible. Like, and he's still gonna be able to run for president. And the motherfucker still, they said this trial only affects 20% of his voters. Him being found guilty, everything. They said they did a poll with the whole world, and him being found guilty only affects 20% of his voters. In other words, 1 out of 5 people. So 1 out of 5. That mean the nigga still gonna win when he won't. You know what I'm saying? When he run for president, he still got 80% of his I was finna say audience, but 80% of his supporters. He only lost 20% because of being convicted of this shit right here. So y'all just think about that. Do the math. And I'm finna show y'all, they gonna say it. He only lost 20%. They did a poll. I told her, they did a whole poll all over the United States, all over the world. He lost 20%, only 20% of his voters by getting convicted of 34 felonies. So that means these MAGA motherfuckers, they don't give a fuck what he get convicted of, nigga. They could have convicted that nigga of murder, and they still gonna vote for him. So what we finna watch is his ass getting convicted. Yeah, they came back with a jury, all this shit. But what I'm telling y'all is, he gonna get house arrest. They already saying the legal analysts, this judges and lawyers telling you what he gonna, what's gonna happen. Like, this ain't just no random people talking. This judges and lawyers telling you, like, now he not gonna do jail time for this. You know what I'm saying? This is what the sentencing is gonna be. And they telling you what the sentence could be from the minimum all the way to the max. And the max is like some months in jail. So y'all can look it up. He ain't finna do none of that. Hold on. Y'all think, come on. Let go. Y'all hit the like button or whatever it is. Your ass ain't subscribe, but we got to watch this. Fuck this. Y'all think I'm lying. This nigga's not finna go to jail. Let me get y'all set up where y'all can see that. Somebody. Goddamn, even Biden came out and said, hey man, this shit don't mean nothing. He's still gonna be running for he's still gonna be running for president, man. Hold on. Let me get my shit. Watch this. See, I watched it while I was blowed. I have to watch stuff like this when I'm blowed, because I'm really a detective when I get blowed. I really am. I figure out all kind of shit. All right. Go back. Straight on that, yeah. All right. Now y'all watch this. I'm not tripping. I'm gonna show y'all the fast one first. This the quick one. Hold on, let me get y'all set up where y'all can see. So y'all ain't looking at it. Y'all gonna look at this. I do that. Yeah. All right. This the quick one. Yeah, this the quick one.
in front of the country, but that is where we're headed. And now the question, as John Carl brings up, is whether or not this shifts the dynamic at all. Of course, some political pundits will say this was sort of baked in, that Donald Trump supporters have been bracing for anything here that won't change the dynamic at all, if much at all, for those who are loyal Donald Trump supporters. And
what a quick one is. I gotta show y'all the quick one first. Is this one? It's the one that's like 12 minutes. Hold on. I think it's this one. How long is this? Yeah, this one.
Let's go to Kara Scannell right now, who just came from inside the courtroom this incredibly historic day. Kara?
Hey, Jake. Yeah, so, we thought that this was ending at the end of the day without a verdict, and then the judge came back on the bench. After saying he was going to excuse the jury, he returned at 4:36 saying the jury had another note. It was time-stamped at 4:20. They had a verdict, and they needed an extra 30 minutes. The mood changed entirely inside the courtroom. Trump had been laughing with his lawyer, Todd Blanche. They'd been talking a lot. He was smiling. It appeared they thought that this day was ending without a verdict. And then after the judge had read...
See, I told you how they were laughing. He was sitting with his lawyer, and they thought they were finna go home with no verdict. They ain't have to worry about no verdict. The judge even thought they was finna go home. The judge had said he was sending the jury home for the day. Then he got a note, and he said, the judge said, "Oh, we got a verdict." And they said, "Trump, y'all heard what she said? Like his whole shit changed."
At the head note, everything changed. He became very still. He had his arms crossed, folded across his chest. It became a much different situation inside that courtroom. Then we waited for the jury to enter. When they came in, they filed into the courtroom. None of them looked over at Donald Trump. That is normal. They normally don't. But they all walked toward their seats, took their seats, and then the court security officer asked them to read the verdict. So the foreman stood up with a microphone, and he was asked for each count if they had reached a verdict and what it was. And he went through all 34 counts saying guilty. Then after that...
Y'all understand? Okay, so they went through all 34 counts, the jury did. But this is all together and said guilty to all 34 counts. Then they singled each juror out and made sure that they said guilty. Y'all listen.
The court security officer asked them if this was a unanimous verdict by all the jurors. They answered audibly in the courtroom saying that yes, it was. The judge asked if any of the parties wanted this individually polled. Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, said he did want the jurors individually polled. So they went. Okay, so individually pooled is like you want to ask each juror, did you say guilty? Did you say guilty? They did that. So not only they already said guilty. But him and his lawyer said, no, we want each juror pooled individually and asked, did they say guilty? And then this what happened. Through each juror, each of the 12 jurors, one by one, and they each confirmed that their verdict on all 34 counts was guilty. Then the judge had thanked the jury for their service. He excused them and said that he wanted to talk to them afterwards, asking them to stick around for a little bit because he wanted to thank them individually for their service over these past 7 weeks of this trial since jury selection began. So they were waiting in the back room for the judge to go and discuss with them. And then the judge sent the sentencing date for July 11th, And then at that point, he said if there was nothing else, he was going to excuse them. At this point, Donald Trump stands up. We can now finally get a good look at his face. His face was red. He looked upset. He had a frown on his face. And as he walked toward the well that separates where he's sitting into the common area of the galley where the rest of us are, his son Eric Trump was sitting in that first seat. And so Donald Trump reached out to him, shook his hand vigorously, and then as he was walking past him, Eric Trump patted his father on the back. So kind of the most humane moment we've seen in this trial, this personal, emotional interaction between the father and son. as Trump then walked down the center aisle of the courtroom and out into the hallway, where then he spoke to the cameras. So it was certainly a historic moment and quite a dramatic moment, coming very unexpected at the end of this day, which had looked like it was heading toward there not being a verdict. So certainly a surprise to Donald Trump and his team, and something that they did not see coming based on the change in their demeanor, and certainly a serious moment for Trump, where he did look like he was upset with the outcome of this trial.
Okay, tell us, if you would, about the jurors, these 12 Americans, 12 Manhattanites, in addition to the 6 alternates.
So y'all listen about the jurors, like who they are, where they come from, whatever, because this, I wanted to know that. So listen.
Were asked to consider, give up their lives for several weeks, consider the very complicated case and charges, came back fairly quickly with this unanimous guilt verdict of 34 guilty charges, making for the first time in the history of the United States a former president of the United States a convicted felon. When they were sitting there as the foreperson read the verdict, when they were being polled, each one of them, all 12, saying that they agreed with the guilty verdict on all 34 counts. Did they look at the defendant, the former president? Did they have any emotions on their face? You said earlier that the president was looking at them. What were they doing with their faces?
When the foreperson was reading the verdict, the jurors, I'd say half of them were looking straight down at the ground and others were looking at the judge. I didn't see any of them look at Donald Trump. And, as you noted, he had craned his neck so he could look at them as they were being individually polled. None of them appeared to make any eye contact with him while they were sitting in the box throughout this whole reading of the verdict, both when the foreperson read it, when they were individually polled, and then when they left. So they did not appear to look at him at any time entering or leaving the courtroom. And as he was watching them today, none of them appeared to look back at him. And this jury is all made up of New Yorkers, but the foreperson is from Ireland, an immigrant here.
Okay, so the flow person from Ireland, he an immigrant. Y'all know Trump don't like immigrants. And then it's one more immigrant. Hold on.
There's a well-educated jury. There were a couple of lawyers on the jury, some other executives. So it representative of New York in many ways, and a jury of Trump's peers, as he is a native New Yorker himself. But there's appeared to be no emotion either displayed on the faces of the jurors. They were all pretty straight-faced, no expression throughout this whole process. And it is something that, they knew coming into this, that this was going to be a significant historical trial. And throughout the trial, none of them had betrayed any sense of what they thought of the evidence or how they were reacting to any of the witnesses. They really kept straight faces. We often joke they've had poker faces on this whole time. You really were not getting any revelations from them throughout this trial, Jake.
Very wise. What about the judge, Juan Merchan, who has been attacked over and over by the defendant, former President Trump, now a convicted felon?
Exactly. Okay, so now he is a convicted felon, and that judge he talking about, I don't know what Trump, I'm gonna show in the next video, like the first thing he did was talk about the judge again. I ain't followed this enough to know exactly what nationality the judge is, but Trump is alleging that the judge, I guess the judge is like a minority or something. Hold on, let me see what his name is again. He's something.
By the defendant, former President Trump, attacked over Judge Juan Merchan.
Juan Merchan. So yeah, he
attacked.
Y'all already know how Trump is. Dude named Juan, man. I'm just saying he might be Mexican. If he Mexican, Trump been talking shit the whole time about him, bro. Like, yeah, he might be Indian. I don't know what it is, but that make Trump do what he do. So this motherfucker done been in there talking shit to the judge the whole trial. You calling him all kind of shit. And they say he like a soft-spoken judge. Like they had the wrong judge. They needed a nigga, a real, like a nigga, like, yeah, judge. Cause this judge let him fire off at him and all kind of shit. And that's what they talking about when they said, what was the judge's reaction when, you know, the guilty verdict came through or whatever.
Over and over by the defendant, former President Trump, now a convicted felon, by his allies in the media. What was his reaction? And also, if you saw any reaction of the defense attorneys or the prosecution, what they did during this rather surreal moment in American history.
No, the judge had brought the jurors in. He's a soft-spoken man, and he was even soft-spoken when he came in and had to them, you know, initially he came in and said, I'm going to excuse the jury at 4:30 today. I'll be right back. And he left the bench. There's about 15 minutes left in the day. He came back in at 4:36 and he said, I have a note. There is a verdict. But he has maintained this kind of cool composure the entire time. Then when he brought the jurors in, and while we're waiting in this hearing for the jury to come in, it is almost pin silent in that courtroom. Everyone being on edge, everyone waiting for the door to the right of the judge to open and for those jurors to walk in. There was no discussion amongst the parties as we were waiting in this moment. Then when the jury came in, you know, the judge essentially hands it over to the court officer. He asked him initially at first, you know, I have your note. Is this accurate? Is this your note that you have a verdict? The foreman confirms, and then the judge hands it off to one of the court.
Do y'all know how fucking mad that orange motherfucker was? They came back and said, never mind, we got a verdict. Ain't nobody going home yet.
Officers who does the individual verdict reading, asking the foreperson each time for count one, how do you find? And then he would say guilty across all 34 of those counts. It was only after all of that was completed, the judge then thanked the jurors for their service, said he wanted to talk to them, said he couldn't talk about the case, couldn't talk about the facts, but he just wanted to talk to them because he knew that they had sacrificed a lot to be members of this jury hearing evidence for the past 6 weeks in what is undoubtedly a very high-profile case. And these jurors know that they know where they are, they know the attention on this. As you'll remember from jury selection, there was a lot of attention on whether jurors felt that they were being too exposed by the idea that people knew that they were here for jury duty. So he wanted to take the jury back and to meet with them. Now, this jury has been essentially anonymous. Only the lawyers have known their names. Even the foreperson signing the verdict sheet was just supposed to sign with his juror number. And that was, the judge had done that out of protection for this jury. So we do not know if any of them are going to speak. The judge told them that all of the restrictions he has placed on them have been lifted, that they are able to speak if they want to, but he also told them that they don't have to speak if they don't want to. Now, also, I would say the prosecution, as is pretty typical, they kept straight faces throughout the reading of the verdict, and they left the room without saying anything or showing any emotion, Jake.
Okay, that's the short. That's the short. Now, hold up. Before I even get to the other one, let me explain to y'all what we got going on, like why it's crazy. All right. If you're wondering, yes, he can still run for president. If you're wondering, yes, he's still the Republican. Y'all, I don't know. Okay, I think it's on. No, yeah, it's on this video that I'm finna play for y'all. Y'all gonna hear Biden response. Biden responded and he said, Biden is telling the people like this don't mean nothing. They happy he got convicted, but Biden know he ain't going to jail. Biden know it's a class E felony. Biden know he's still he's still gonna be able to run for president. So this nigga will probably be the first president that if he win, he'll be the first president that's a felon fresh off his case, nigga, if he win in November. So Jordan already responded like, yeah, they found him guilty in this shit, but they don't mean nothing. Like, he's still gonna be able to run for president. He's still gonna be able to, hold on, let me find this shit. I'm telling you, bro, it had me, I don't be watching shit like this, but it had me even like, man, what in the fuck? This nigga got 34 felonies and he ain't gonna get no time. Like, I got partners who got 1 felony, 1, and did 10 years. Like, this shit is not calculating. It's not, the math ain't mathing for me. Nah, history. So I'm gonna go right here. Yeah, history right there. Now all this was in live. This was live. Like all this shit was live. That's why I like Denver 7. I started watching them.
Estrogen is killing men. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to tell you all about this sneaky hormone and what you can do to stop it.
What you mean estrogen is killing men? Fuck you, bastard. I love women. What kind of devilish message? Fuck is that? Okay. Yeah.
How much should good car insurance cost you a month? $80?
Shut the fuck up.
$120? Nope. Try $38 a month.
Try shutting the fuck up. Okay. Now, the Denver 7, I rock with Denver 7 because they report live. Like, they ask whatever case is gonna be, they gonna have somebody at the courtroom. They gonna have, they in there. So they was there live. Bro, y'all watch this shit. When that shit starts saying guilty, first of all, they put up a chart, right? Where you wouldn't call it a chart. They put up a 34 goddamn things with nothing in them, right? So when the charges would be read, they would fill them in with guilty or not guilty. The damn guilties was coming in so fast. Y'all gonna see. They still was on like number 12 and the guilties was coming in. They was already at like number 30. That's how fast the guilties was coming in. Like, so hold up. Yeah, because this live. They was live with it. This the one I want to show. We ain't watching this whole shit, but I'll show y'all the part I'm talking about. What you say? Biden don't even know where the White House is. Joe don't know what the hell going on. Joe is trying to make it, man. Y'all leave Joe alone, bro. No, this is the case from today. This is the one he just got found guilty of today. 34 felonies, but they class E felonies. Don't forget the E. The E is very important. I didn't know nothing about no goddamn class E felony, but there's a such thing as a class E felony. And basically, a class E felony, you ain't doing shit. You ain't doing no jail time. You gonna get house arrest. You're gonna get house arrest. You're gonna get a probation officer. And y'all watch. Y'all look. Hold on.
This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air for this historic moment in American history, the verdict in the first criminal trial ever against a former president of the United States. Here in New York, the jury a short time ago alerting the judge it has reached a decision in the Donald Trump hush money trial. Trump, of course, is facing 34 felony counts in this case, accused of falsifying business records to cover up $130,000 in hush money payments to Stormy Daniels in the weeks before the 2016 presidential election. I'm going to go live down to the courthouse. Our senior investigative correspondent, Eric Tursky, who has been there every step of the way inside that courtroom. He's live outside the courthouse. Aaron, the note from the jury that they do have a verdict.
It came after about 10 hours of deliberations over the last 2 days, David, and about 6 years after this investigation of former President Trump began by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And it came as something of a surprise because moments before the judge announced that the jury had reached a verdict, he said he was going to be sending them home. And then there was a delay, a pause before the judge came back out onto the bench and very quietly announced, almost mumbling, that the jury had reached a verdict, and it jolted everyone in their seat. Former President Trump, in fact, had been laughing and joking with his defense attorney, Todd Blanche, Prosecutors had been smiling and sharing pleasantries, but everyone instantly became ramrod straight court officers.
Man, this fool said everybody was laughing and trading pleasantries because they thought they was going to go without no verdict. Listen.
Attorney Todd Blanche, prosecutors had been smiling and sharing pleasantries, but everyone instantly became ramrod straight. Court officers flooded into the courtroom, and the jury asked for a few extra minutes to fill out the paperwork. It is a complicated verdict form because there are...
Man, that jury was like, fuck this shit, man. We ready to go home. Just bring what we got to fill out so we can go. We need about 20 more minutes. Let us fill this shit out so we can go, man. This nigga guilty. We leave.
Are 34 counts of falsifying business records in order to cover up an alleged conspiracy to corrupt the 2016 election. So the jury wants to be very careful with the paperwork, David. We're just waiting for them to come back into the room.
Aaron, a couple of very basic questions to bring people along right here with us. Again, the jury in Donald Trump's criminal trial here in New York, short time ago, alerting the judge that they do have a verdict in this case. Bottom line here, Aaron, that means they've decided guilt or not guilty. This does not mean there's any chance here of a mistrial because they've told the judge we have a verdict.
That's right. They have told the judge we have a verdict. Now, it could be a mixed verdict. They do not have to decide, the same verdict for all 34 counts. It is, again, a bit complicated. The former president is accused of falsifying checks, invoices, ledger entries of the Trump organization. So it could be that some they believe he falsified and some not. We'll wait to see what it is, but we do believe they have been able to reach unanimity on each of those 34 counts, but we'll wait to see.
Now, I see this before they knew what the verdict was. They outside the courtroom right now and they got somebody inside. So they don't even know what the verdict is yet.
Extraordinary sequence of events late today. Aaron Katursky describing for us the scene in that courtroom late this afternoon when it appeared that jurors were getting ready to be sent home by that judge in the case. Obviously, 2 days now of deliberations. And then, as Aaron just reported moments ago, the judge then informing the court that instead of going home, they would deliver a verdict in this case, this criminal trial involving former President Donald Trump. And as we have mentioned many times before, obviously an historic moment in this country, the first time a former president has been on trial. We're waiting now to hear from the jury, made up, of course, of 7 men, 5 women. Those jurors deliberating for about 10 hours right there in Lower Manhattan. They could vote to acquit on all charges, convict on all charges, or as Aaron mentioned there a moment ago, they could split this verdict. They could find the former president guilty on some counts, not guilty on others. Of course, we're simply going to wait to hear what they have decided. You can see the makeup of the jury. And Aaron, if you could enlighten us here, I know that you have studied this as you've covered this trial, but we have Americans from all walks of life. His peers here in New York City, there are a couple of lawyers on this jury. Tell us more about those who will be deciding his fate.
The 5-woman, 7-man jury reflects the diverse richness of Manhattan. They come from all the varied neighborhoods of the borough, and it includes a teacher, a couple of lawyers, as you mentioned, which has been much speculated about their potential role on the jury. But it also includes 2 native New Yorkers, 2 immigrants, one from Ireland, the foreman by default, because he was the first juror seated. There's also an immigrant from Lebanon, and all of them.
Lebanon. So it was 2 immigrants, one from Ireland. Well, what you call him? I ain't trying to be funny. What you call him? Ireland, whatever. And one from, what he said, Lebanon? Lebanon. So Trump done talked about all them. Any kind of immigrant, Trump, yeah, he don't like them. So they had 2. He knew, they saying the way he was looking at the jury like that because he knew he had 2 immigrants on the jury. You feel me? Irish, there you go. Yeah.
Pledge, David, to be fair.
And somebody tell me what that judge was. His name is Juan something. So if the judge was Mexican and Trump looking at a Irish and a Lebanese in the jury, y'all already know Trump, he hollering rigged. I don't know what that, somebody make sure that judge is Mexican for me. I think he is. Shit, his name Juan. I ain't trying to be funny. I only know 2-3 black ones. I don't know no white ones.
And impartial. And the judge reminded them in giving them jury instructions before deliberations that they needed to adhere to that, to be fair, to be impartial, and not to let any views, either for or against former President Trump, influence the way they judge the evidence. All of them at the outset said they could do that, David.
Aaron, tell us how we expect to see this play out. Of course, none of us can be sure until it actually plays out in that courtroom. But how do we believe this verdict will be delivered? And how soon could we hear what they've decided here?
In a minute, motherfucker.
The jury had indicated at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time that they had a verdict, but they wanted some extra minutes to fill out the paperwork. So that time has all but elapsed. So any moment now, we expect that the jury will be brought back into the courtroom. Everyone will be out.
The jury just needed a couple they need to sign their forms to go the fuck home. So they hadn't already came to the guilty verdict, and they was like, hey, we need about 20 more minutes to sign our shit so we can go home, because they got to sign out and shit. And then the judge told him he wanted, well, here, I'll let y'all listen.
Asked to rise, including former President Trump. The jury will...
Yeah, Juan Merchant. Juan Merchant, is he? Somebody just let me know if he Mexican or not, because if so, that's why Trump kept fucking with him all through the trial. Like, Trump was throwing insults at him the whole damn trial.
Will take their seats, and then the judge will ask the foreman, this man from Ireland who used to work as a waiter. He now works in sales, and because he was the first juror seated, was selected the foreman by default. He will be asked by the judge whether the jury has reached a verdict, and then he will be asked to announce what it is for each of the 34 counts. Once he has gone through those 34 counts, the jury...
Okay, see, he Colombian, right? I'm gonna just tell y'all, well, I ain't gotta tell y'all, y'all know Colombian mean Mexican to Trump. Trump, look at all that shit is the same. I'm telling y'all.
All 12 members of the jury will be polled individually to make sure that that is indeed the verdict. And at that point, it will be officially rendered.
Aaron, as you point out, there are 34 felony counts here that he's been charged with, the former president. And each one of these counts begins with essentially this allegation that the former president, Donald Trump, made and caused a false entry into the business records of an enterprise to, and then again.
Okay, hold on. I just want y'all to look at that right there. That's 34 felonies, 34 criminal counts. Look, don't fault me because I didn't follow this trial. I don't give a shit enough to. I know this much, though. I don't know not one black man that had 34. If y'all can find one, please just leave it in the comments. Email me. Find me a nigga that got 34 felonies, that got convicted of 34 felonies. I don't give a shit if they was class E, class G, class A. I don't give a fuck. 34 felonies and ain't do no jail time. Just somebody find that for me. Let me see if that's even possible.
Each description of each count then plays out. For example, the first count is an invoice from Michael Cohen dated February 14th, 2017. And then there are a number of these counts, 34 in all. And again, Aaron, as you pointed out there, I mentioned a moment ago as well, this jury could find the former president guilty on some of these counts, not guilty on others. Obviously,
they found
the other couple of scenarios, guilty on all or not guilty on all.
That's right. Any of those scenarios would be possible, and it's impossible to know how the jury arrived at the verdict they did. Perhaps we'll learn one day. But the invoices, the checks, the ledger entries that you saw there a moment ago on the screen are the allegedly falsified business records, and they all relate to a reimbursement in monthly installments to Donald Trump's former fixer and lawyer, Michael Cohen.
Okay, let me break that down for street niggas. In other words, all his charges go back to him. Say, like, if you got an LLC, and niggas, we know by LLCs, and you got niggas on your payroll, and you gonna cover up some dirty shit you did, and you stupid enough to funnel the shit that you paying the motherfuckers off with through your LLC. That's what he did, all 34 counts.
On the eve of the 2016 election, he had paid porn actress Stormy Daniels $100.
Oh, I left out the porn actress shit, niggas. If she, if you take nothing else from this trial, nigga, you don't make deals with porn actresses, nigga. You can't pay them hush money. They not gonna hush, stupid motherfucker. I don't know what the fuck Trump was thinking. I forgot to tell y'all about the porn actress part. It's all going back. It's all because he had to pay off the porno bitch that he had secrets with. So rule number 2, niggas, don't make deals with porno actresses. It's just not a good idea. Anyway, let go. See, they don't know the verdict yet. Y'all keep watching the verdict. The verdict finna this the part that's funny to me because I'm hot.
$130,000 in hush money. And when Trump reimbursed Cohen in those monthly installments, that's when prosecutors said he falsified the business records to try to hide it from voters. They called it a scheme to hoodwink voters by keeping crucial information about former President Trump's past.
Hoodwink the voters because they had to, what you mean is like, the voters he didn't want the voters to know about the porno bitch.
From voters in 2016. And prosecutors said in closing arguments, David, that may well have been what allowed Trump to win, suggesting these falsified documents changed the course of American presidential history. And now we await a verdict that may well affect another election come November.
And the prosecution, as part of that argument, saying it may have affected, but it might not have affected the election, but trying to make the case before that jury that voters at home should have been able to make that decision based on all of the information at hand. But we'll see what the jury decides here. I'm joined by our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, on the phone. And I just want to say to all of our contributors, we'll have to interrupt the moment we begin to hear what this verdict is on all of these 34 counts. But in the meantime, Dan, for our viewers watching ABC News live coverage here of the verdict in Donald Trump's criminal trial, you and I were on the air last night here, Dan, with those first 2 requests from the jury, and they were somewhat telling. 4 hours in, a very specific request from those jurors to look back at testimony, to have testimony reread from David Pecker, a former publisher of the National Enquirer, of Michael Cohen, of course, Donald Trump's one-time lawyer and fixer.
Okay, now, like I told y'all, I ain't followed this like I should have, but whoever that Michael dude is, they ain't believe him worth a shit. Like, his testimony, his whatever, but it still counted because he was Trump lawyer or something. Y'all just heard him. And he switched. So I guess he got some kind of immunity or some shit. But his testimony, they was trying to make it like it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't believable because he used to be his lawyer or whatever. And he fixed everything for Trump before, but he flipped. And his was the one, I guess, it's the Michael Cohen dude or whatever his name is.
About, in particular, a meeting allegedly that took place at Trump Tower. All 3 men involved in that meeting, according to the testimony, in addition to phone calls and other testimony that they requested. But that particular request was somewhat telling. And what could it potentially signal here without getting ahead of ourselves?
Right. So that's exactly what the prosecutors would have wanted them to start with, right? Because from the prosecutor's perspective, this is a scheme that started in 2015. It started at the Trump Tower with a meeting between David Pecker and Michael Cohen and Donald Trump talking about how they would keep an eye out. David Pecker would keep an eye out for negative stories. That he would help pay for them. They would end up, quoting, killing them. Catch and kill was the scheme.
Okay, so it was them 3, and they said catching what? What do you say? Any negative comments they was to catch and pay them off or make them go away.
For them. They would end up, quoting, killing them. Catch and kill was the scheme. But the reason it's important that they asked for that readback is David Pecker was the corroborating witness for Michael Cohen, right? Again and again, we talked in this case about Michael Cohen's credibility problems. And the prosecution's argument was, yes.
See, that's the Michael Cohen dude I was telling y'all about. So they were saying something about his credibility. That's the word.
About Michael Cohen's credibility problems. And the prosecution's argument was, yes, he's got credibility problems, but we believe we have corroborated all the key elements of his testimony. And the beginning of that corroboration starts with the 2015 meeting, where David Pecker and Michael Cohen are basically relaying the same account of how this all started.
So both they ass turned on Trump. Both of them flipped.
For prosecutors, that was the beginning of the jury's deliberative process. Again, it was impossible to know exactly what it meant. Did it mean that they were following the prosecution's roadmap? Did it mean that there was some dissent on the jury and they were trying to resolve outstanding issues? We didn't know. We still don't know for certain right now. But based on the speed of the verdict.
Let me see. Shut up.
Deliberations was that the jury instructions from the course of just 2 days. And what does that tell you?
Hush the fuck up. They finna come and watch the verdict. The verdict finna come in.
You can't say it enough that this is an historic moment for the country, because we have never witnessed a criminal trial of a former president of the United States. The president, Donald Trump, the former president, in that courtroom too. Our reporters there in the courtroom and in what we call the overflow room, given eyes and ears on the court for us, reporting in that Donald Trump is sitting at the defense table, his arms very tightly crossed. They describe him as stone-faced, nodding as his attorney whispers into his ear. And as you know,
everything he's talking about right now is happening live. They got a reporter in the courtroom live talking to him in his damn ear, because ain't no cameras allowed in the courts in New York. So he's describing what's going on live.
Well, after weeks of coverage that there is a courtroom where they allow reporters to go in to witness the proceedings for the entire day. Our team has been in there every single day, right there along with the former president. And John Carl, you are one of the correspondents who has spent time in that courtroom. It must be a surreal scene, not only for the jurors who must decide a former president's fate, but for the former president himself. And we heard about this in closing arguments, that not only did the defense make its case, the prosecution make its case directly, aiming their arguments, their closings at the jury, but almost the entire time, the former president looking over at that jury too, studying those jurors' faces. And John, I apologize in advance if I have to interrupt you, but an extraordinary scene over these last several days inside that courtroom.
I mean, David, a scene unlike any we have seen in American history. A former president of the United States, and not just a former president of the United States, but a current candidate for president of the United States again, sitting just, feet away from the jury that would decide his fate. And he can see perfectly clear their expressions as they're hearing the key witnesses, as they're hearing the key evidence. And when the jury walks in, the entire court must stand up, and the jury walks right in front of Donald Trump and his legal team and the prosecutors on their way to the jury box. And it was interesting. I was in there for 2 very critical days of testimony. Michael Cohen testifying, obviously.
Now, I just want to ask this question. Y'all see how they keep putting the emphasis on how he was studying the jury, basically the whole trial, but really today, like he was making sure he got their faces and they had to walk right past him and this and that. I want y'all to, after this, look at the Rayful Edmonds trial. They had bulletproof glass and shit and where like they had Rayful Edmonds them behind all kind of shit where the jury couldn't even see the jury. This motherfucker got the Secret Service with him. If it's any kind of way you can intimidate a jury, it's to have the Secret Service with you. They ain't had no bulletproof glass up, none of that shit. This the shit I'm talking about when I say, show me a black man specifically. that got 34 felonies. He got convicted of them, and they ain't do no jail time. And I'm gonna shut up. Come on, they finna, the verdict finna come in.
The central witness in this case. And for the most part, the jurors avoid eye contact with Donald Trump as they pass right in front of him and sit in that jury box.
And John Carl, we've just been told by our reporters who are there in the courtroom, we'll get back to you, that the former president, Donald Trump, did stand as the judge entered that courtroom, fixing his jacket, taking a deep breath in the courtroom for those who can see him, able to witness that. One of our reporters down there on the scene reporting that suddenly there are many more court officers in the room. Secret Service supervisor standing in the back of that room. As you know, any court case here in New York involves significant amount of security. This is unprecedented. There has been there every single day of this trial.
So y'all heard that, like this happening live while they reporting this. The Secret Service then filed into the goddamn room. You just heard him say increased amount of security filed in. This all before the jury. I mean, after the jury then came in. That's what I'm. This shit crazy, man.
Any court case here in New York involves a significant amount of security. This is unprecedented. There has been security there every single day of this trial. And many of these officers, when asked previously, when do you get to go home? They are there for the entirety of these days, these proceedings. So even yesterday, for example, after the jurors left for the day, both sides, the defense, the prosecution, had to agree on the kind of testimony that would be reread back to the jurors. Those requests made by that jury, that those officers, everybody in that court,
they don't get to
responsible for keeping the courtroom safe, would stay into the evening, back to you, or
filing right past former President Trump on their way in. Most of the jury
at this point. Donald Trump standing as the judge entered the court. What do we know about the jury at this point?
The jury has just entered the courtroom, David, filing right past former President Trump on their way in. Most of the jurors appeared to avoid eye contact as they took their seats in the jury box. The judge is now formally reading into the record.
Stand by, Aaron. Stand by. We are learning right now, Aaron, the foreperson is staying.
Them motherfuckers, that shit came on while they was live. Stand by, Aaron, because that nigga was getting his verdict.
Standing in that courtroom, let's wait for reporting from inside the courtroom. The control room listening to this very closely. Aaron, you are as well from our team inside the courtroom and in the overflow. The verdict is now being read. As you can see on the screen here, count one, guilty.
Okay, now wait. Y'all look at this shit. This is what I wanted y'all to see. This is what I was talking about when I started the video. Bruh, look. It's a chart. It's not a chart. Whatever you want to call this right here. This is 34 counts. This is all 34 felony counts right here, right? So what they're doing is they're going to read it out. They're going to read all the charges if you're guilty or not. Y'all watch how the goddamn, the people whoever typing this shit, they can't even keep up with how fast the jury's saying guilty on their ass. They going to be like right here and the jury going to be all the way over here. They already at guilty. The motherfucker can't type guilty fast enough. Watch this shit. Watch. I told y'all I get blowed and know this stupid shit.
Count two, the former president found guilty. Count three, guilty. We await count four here. As you can see, the first three counts, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, found guilty of 3 felony counts so far. The foreperson in that courtroom. Counts 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Count 6, guilty.
7, guilty. 8, guilty. 9, guilty.
As we continue to enter in what we're learning from the courtroom, it's our belief that first 19 counts, I'm being told, the former president has been found guilty.
Y'all see that? They still at 9. The nigga typing the shit trying to the nigga that's typing it, trying to put it on the screen for us, can't get fast enough. He already at 19. The nigga talking already, he like, hey, bro, he's already bad. number 19. Like,
of counts 20 through 23 found guilty as well. So correct me, control room, all the way through count 23 now found guilty. We are now up to count 26 and count 27 found guilty as well. So again, I'm going to pause here. He's been found guilty. 31 counts now of guilty as 31. We wait for the graphic to catch up to the reporting coming from the courthouse.
That nigga can't
count
type that fast.
Counts 34 coming in right now. Guilty on all counts. This jury in New York City, a jury of his peers, finding the former president guilty on every single felony count brought against him by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Aaron Katursky outside the courthouse. Let's go to you for first reaction.
Look, they still ain't got, niggas still trying to type on me.
An incredible verdict.
They got niggas cheering and shit. You don't hear the better listen to the background.
On this.
Niggas still ain't been able to type in all the gifts. Look, the nigga like, I can't type no faster.
In May, late May, the former president of the United States convicted as charged. 34 counts of falsifying business records, and David as
Bruh, y'all look at that. Look, man. God damn. Boy, if your attorney came to you and you had that many charges on them, and just imagine all them red ass guilties. You gonna take the first goddamn plea you could, nigga. Look at all this red, every count. He ain't get found not guilty on that one damn count. Look, all 34 of them. Just look at that right there. Like, look, yeah, look like the NBA draft. Look at this. This shit look like sports betting, bro. This is charges, nigga. Look at this shit, bro. And these motherfuckers is outside wherever he at. They celebrating like a motherfucker. Y'all watch, listen.
An incredible verdict on this day.
A single felony count brought against him by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Aaron Katursky outside the courthouse. Let's go to you for first reaction.
Listen.
An incredible verdict on a day in May, late May, the former president of the United States convicted as charged. 34 counts of falsifying business records, and David, as the crowd outside this courthouse found out, a big cheer went up from opponents of the former president who had been massing in the park across the street from the courthouse. Just a whooping cheer, and they continue to make a lot of noise. There have been supporters of the former president here as well. It looks like...
Boy, it's niggas out there barbecuing, selling fish plates. It's niggas out there. It's MAGA niggas on the other side, mad as a motherfucker. Boy, they out there bitch acting.
Many of them are hanging in there, but are remaining silent as the former president has been convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records, meaning, David, the jury believed the Manhattan District Attorney's theory of the case that the former president falsified these records to cover up a conspiracy to corrupt the 2016 election by hiding lewd stories from his past. David?
Aaron, as we know from the instructions from the judge in this case, Juan Merchan, telling that jury that they could not convict solely on the testimony of Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's longtime former fixer, friend, and attorney, that there must be corroborating evidence in this case that they also believe in coming up with any sort of verdict. I glean from that then in the
Bro, look, just, my bad, y'all, but just look at that screen, bro. That shit do look like some kind. Somebody take a screenshot of that shit right there. Like, that shit look like some kind of shit on ESPN for real. And that's his charges. Boy, y'all president finna have, look at y'all president charges, bro. This nigga, all of them felonies too. All of them, all them 34 right there, all that red. All that, like red with Republicans when they be getting the states. Look at all that red. The red on this one mean guilty though.
Discussions within that jury room, and we will learn more in the days ahead. that they then pointed to other evidence. And we know about the request that they look at testimony from David Pecker, for example, to be reread back to them this morning, that is the kind of corroborating evidence that they must have leaned in on to come up with 34 guilty findings on every count here. The former president found guilty, as we're on the air this afternoon. Aaron, again, testimony from David Pecker and other evidence presented by the prosecution. They must have leaned on not solely the testimony of Michael Cohen here.
They were told they couldn't rely solely on Michael Cohen because he was an accomplice in the alleged, or now found, scheme to corrupt the 2016 election. And so they did need corroborating evidence and testimony, and they may have found it in the testimony of David Pecker, because one of the things they asked to hear again today was how both men described a meeting in August of 2015, 2 months after Donald Trump had announced his candidacy, when prosecutors said this conspiracy was hatched. David Pecker at the National Enquirer would buy and bury unflattering stories. He said he agreed to be the eyes and ears of the Trump campaign, and prosecutors said it amounted to a campaign finance violation. And Michael Cohen.
Rule number 3, niggas. If you gonna have a cover-up man, don't let his last name be Pecker, bruh. David Pecker, whatever this motherfucker name. I can't stand him saying his name. It just don't even feel right. But rule number 3. That's just if the nigga last name Pecker, don't go with your move, bruh.
Described the meeting very much the same way, saying that he recalled Pecker telling Trump he would be the eyes and ears of the Trump campaign. Perhaps that was the corroborating evidence and testimony that the jury needed, David. They also wanted to make sure they understood the judge's instructions of how to find out how to convict somebody of falsification of business records. Judge told them that even if Trump didn't personally falsify the records, that he could be found guilty if he caused other people, like an accounting department of the Trump organization or Michael Cohen or someone else, to falsify those records on his behalf.
All right, Aaron Katersky, stay with us here. Aaron Katersky, who has covered every day of this trial for us outside the courthouse there. Obviously, we also have a team inside court, both in the courtroom and in this overflow room. And I just want to bring everyone at home watching our ABC News live coverage here of an historic day here. The former president, Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 counts in the hush money case that involved Stormy Daniels in the lead up to the 2016 election. Found guilty again on all counts by a jury of his peers. Again, we know the makeup of this jury come from a cross-section of life in this country. 2 attorneys among that jury pool. It's been said in other cases along the way that the prosecution doesn't always like having lawyers sitting in that jury box, but in this case, both sides agreed to those 2 jurors in particular, lawyers who perhaps, as we'll find out in the days to come, might have helped explain some of the very detailed jury instructions.
Okay, now hold on. Let me speak on that. That's a good thing to have lawyers in the goddamn jury. They had 2 lawyers in the jury, so if the jurors didn't understand, they able to come to a verdict quick. You know what I'm saying? Because any questions that the former jurors may have, you know what I'm saying? They got 2 attorneys right there that's gonna answer it. But y'all know Trump, he didn't like that, so that's part of what he trying to appeal with too. He gonna speak on here. Hold on.
From Judge Juan Merchan. Again, the former president you see there on the screen found guilty on all counts. Some of the color coming in from the courtroom from our team. The former president, Donald Trump, watching very closely as the jury was polled. They all replied yes when asked if this was their verdict. The district attorney himself, Alvin Bragg, stern-faced in the courtroom. Todd Blanche was the one who asked to poll the jury. Of course, that is the lead defense attorney in this case for Donald Trump.
So it was Trump attorney that after they already had unanimously said, guilty on all counts, that he wanted each juror to, stand up and say, yes, they said guilty. That was Trump attorney that, requested that, and they did it.
Donald Trump watching again as they were being polled, looking over at the jury as each one of them was individually polled on the verdict. One of our reporters describing the former president as slumped over in his chair, slumped somewhat, looking at the jury as they delivered the verdict, adjusting his head each time to get a look at each of the jurors. As again,
all right, now y'all hear that shit? Hold on, let me rewind it just in case y'all ain't hear. Pay attention.
In his chair, slumped somewhat, looking at the jury as they delivered the verdict, adjusting his head each time to get a look at each of the jurors as again they were polled.
Okay, they making it known very well, like Trump got to look at all them jurors. Like, so I'm saying right here, I don't give a shit. Say I said it. Somebody better watch them jurors. They better put some security around them motherfuckers. For the next, I don't know how long, they better do something because that little orange motherfucker was sitting there looking at all they faces. That's why they keep saying that shit. Like he got a chance, you know, he was slumped over and he turned his head so he could get a look at each individual juror because his attorney requested for each individual juror to say guilty after they had already read the unanimous decision. You see what I'm saying?
Individually. So again, just describing, and it's obviously the limitations of the court system here in New York, no cameras in court. But as we know, we've described to you what would happen. The judge would enter that courtroom. Donald Trump would stand along with others in that courtroom. The jury then re-entering, the four-person standing saying we do have a verdict. The judge asking the four-person what that verdict would be. And then we watched even the screen here, the graphics could not keep up with the speed at which the verdict was delivered. 34 counts, all 34 of them, the former president found guilty in this hush money case. I want to bring in Dan Abrams with us just as we came on the air, now with me here in the studio. And Dan, you and I have talked, there were all sorts of plausible scenarios here, what the jury could decide, perhaps guilty on some counts, not guilty on others. Obviously the chance of a mistrial or a hung jury, it would take just one juror for that scenario. That's not what played out this afternoon. To have 34 counts and to have a jury find over the course of 2 days the former president guilty on all 34 counts, what does this say to you?
So let's be clear. If there had been a split verdict, if there had been convictions on, let's say, 9, just the ones, for example, where Donald Trump had signed the checks, it would have been unlikely, unusual. Most people watching this case expected either there's going to be an acquittal, there'll be a hung jury, or they'll be guilty on all charges. It would have been surprising if the jurors had split the verdict because it's really all basically the same set of facts. It's just a question of which ledger and which check. So either you believe it or you don't. And so the fact that it's 34, we have to be careful here, right? Let's not overstate what that means. Because, for example, when it comes to sentencing, it's not as if the sentence is going to involve 34 counts where...
Now, see, this is what I was telling y'all to pay attention to. This nigga's not going to do no jail time. Listen.
It's not as if the sentence is going to involve 34 counts where each count ends up being served consecutively. There is almost no doubt that whatever sentence happens here, the sentence will be concurrent, meaning all of it will be served at the same time for the 34. So in effect,
about a sentence. Yeah. Let me stop you right there because viewers at home are going to ask immediately, what does this mean? Could the former president be sentenced to potential time behind bars? We know there is the potential.
Hell yeah, the general public gonna ask that because it's 34 goddamn felonies. It's not 34 just charges. I don't give a fuck if you run them concurrent and they all the same. It's still 34 felonies to niggas. That's all we hear. 34 motherfucking felonies and you ain't finna do no jail time, nigga. We don't want to hear no more.
Potential for that, though extremely unlikely for a first-time offender, correct?
I think it is unlikely. This is the lowest level felony in this.
Listen.
To ask immediately, what does this mean?
He gonna say he ain't gonna do no jail time, and then they gonna tell y'all what a Class E felony is, because I ain't never heard of that shit. But all of a sudden, they got Class E felonies now, y'all. It's like the misdemeanor of a felony. So listen to this part.
Could the former president be sentenced to potential time behind bars. We know there is the potential for that, though extremely unlikely for a first-time offender, correct?
I think it is unlikely. This is the lowest level felony in the state of New York. We talk about misdemeanors versus felonies, but there's also different levels of felony. This is a Class E felony, the lowest kind. Donald Trump has never been convicted of a crime before. I think as a result...
All right, hold on, let me pause this shit again, because I don't give a fuck. How many niggas y'all know? I just told y'all, I got partners that got convicted of one felony and did 10 years. Now this Class E felony shit, and they saying he ain't never been in trouble before, is the same shit I'm telling y'all right now. My partners got dope cases. They got one, first time, 10 years. This nigga got 34 counts, 34 felonies. I don't give a fuck if it's Class E, F, G. I don't give a fuck, nigga. It's a felony. It's 34 of them. And they telling y'all why he ain't gonna do no time. And he's still gonna be able to run for presidency. He's still gonna be able to be the president. He gonna be the first president with a felony. I guess. Man, listen.
There is the potential for that, though extremely unlikely for a first-time offender, correct?
I think it is unlikely. This is the lowest level felony in the state of New York. We talk about misdemeanors versus felonies, but there's also different levels of felony. This is a Class E felony, the lowest kind. Donald Trump has never been convicted of a crime before. I think as a result, it is unlikely, not impossible, that he would be sentenced to prison time in connection with this case. There are other options, right? There is probation. I think the other potential option could be home confinement. Can you imagine that? And in an effort, if it were to happen before the election, someone who wants to be out on the campaign trail. Again, I think any serving of a sentence, though, very unlikely to happen before the election. A number of things will happen first. First, he'll do an interview with the probation department. That is typical in any case. You have a meeting where you talk to because he's going to have this meeting with a probation officer, because the probation department then recommends what sentence they think the person ought to get. And then number two is a sentencing happen weeks, months ahead. There's going to be appeals in this case, et cetera. So I think that the actual serving of the sentence, whatever it is probably some time away.
Sometime away, Judge Juan Merchan will take into account whatever the probation officer suggests after this meeting that you say will take place, regardless of whether you're sitting across from somebody who does what you and I do, or somebody who works in sort of any sector here in New York City and beyond. But this is the former president of the United States who will also have to sit across from this probation officer. How soon would we then hear from Judge Juan Merchan what the sentence will be?
So I think that we're going to see when the sentencing date is set, right? So we're watching some people.
We are watching the courthouse very closely. Donald Trump was expected to be able to leave the courtroom today. Of course, as Dan mentioned,
he finna leave, y'all. This is from earlier, so they watching all this live, and they reacting live. But Trump finna come his ass out of there, and we already talked about the sentencing date. It's July 11th. I think, July 11th.
Sentencing will not come for many weeks here, not expected, certainly. We are expecting the former president to leave the courthouse. Have we seen him in front of the camera yet? We have not seen him yet, as we know that he generally addresses reporters when he comes out of the courtroom. There's no promise here that he will today. Sentencing is set for early July. July 11th is what we've been told. Judge Juan Merchan will deliver the sentence on July 11th, which is obviously a little more than a month from now. There is no bail. He will leave court today.
That's going to be a
free
bail.
man for now, certainly. And as you heard Dan report there, and legal analysts across the board have said that jail time in this case extremely, extremely unlikely. But
okay, so sentencing is going to be on. If you want to call that sentencing, will be on July 11th. But we already know he ain't getting no jail time, so you ain't no need to wait on July 11th. He gonna get house arrest or probation. So, but he'll be formally told that on July 11th. Until then, he finna talk some shit. He finna come out talking shit. Y'all watched it.
Obviously, it leads to some immediate questions right away when you're talking about the presumptive Republican nominee in the race for the White House. Does it change the race? At least right now, it doesn't. He can continue to run for president regardless of this conviction on 34 felony counts today. Some have asked, will Donald Trump be able to vote? I had been doing some reading on that because he now has residency in Florida. In the state of Florida, Dan, they often defer to where the case was tried. Is that not correct?
Correct.
So in New York, they allow certain felons to vote of certain categories,
so in other words, he's still going to be able to vote.
It's my understanding that Donald Trump would potentially be able to vote. But let's watch the former president expected to address the cameras.
Listen to this nigga, y'all.
Let's listen. Be able to vote. But let's watch the former president expected to address the cameras. Let's listen.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district.
This nigga said a venue change like it's a goddamn party. This nigga said they wouldn't give us a venue change. Hold on. Trump crazy as a motherfucker.
Rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
That nigga already talking about the election on November 5th. He already know he's finna be president. That's why he just said direct. This is a nigga right here. I don't care what y'all say. This nigga is crazy. This nigga don't give a fuck. This nigga came first thing he said, this is a disgrace. It's a rigged.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do it. Nothing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration.
That nigga said Joe did it. This nigga said Joe did it. God damn it, it's rigged and Joe did it.
In order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now. From prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's...
Nah, if y'all ain't catch it, he talking about the damn Irishman and the judge and the other Lebanon dude that was in the jury. That's why I told y'all, all right, pay attention. Remember this, because when his ass came out, that's just Trump, though. I told y'all, this nigga crazy.
It's in big trouble, but this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never.
You call him man.
And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Todd Blanche at the president's side, Todd Blanche, the defense attorney, the president turning around, not taking any questions from the President Donald Trump a short time after listening to the foreperson deliver the guilty verdict on all 34 counts. Todd Blanche then asking each juror to be polled, each juror then saying that they agreed with the finding. This was unanimous, all 34 counts found guilty. The former president moments ago saying this is a disgrace. This was a rigged trial.
I don't even think y'all paid attention to Todd Blanche's face, to Trump lawyer face. His face looked just like Trump face. He looked like he ready to fight. Look, just watch. Look, this is this is Todd Blanche right here. That's Todd Blanche. That's his attorney. Look at his face the whole time. Trump talking, nigga. This nigga is mad as a motherfucker. He just lost. That's all he thinking about. He is pissed. This the one that said he wanted each juror to stand up individually and say that they said guilty. And they did it. They did it for him. That's him. Y'all watch his y'all watch this nigga face, bro. The whole time Trump talking. Just do that for me. I don't give a shit. Just watch this. Just watch his face. Watch his face, bro. This nigga face don't change, bro. He really want to fight somebody. Hold up. Oh, shit.
Disgraceful trial.
Bro, look at him, bro.
Disgrace. They wouldn't give us a bit.
Expected to address the cameras. Let's listen.
This was a disgrace.
Look at his.
It was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a menu change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area.
Bro, look at his face.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here.
Bro, that nigga face don't change the whole time, bro. Look at this. Whatever this face is, he gonna be a meme. This gonna be the Blanche face or something. This nigga face, y'all ain't really watching. Look, he talking all kind of shit. He doing what he do. This nigga so mad he just lost. Look at his fucking face. It don't change the whole time.
Everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists. And they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case. Never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
That new face didn't change the whole time.
Todd Blanche at the president's side. Todd Blanche, the defense attorney. The president turning around, not taking any questions from the President Donald Trump. A short time after listening to the foreperson deliver the guilty verdict on all 34 counts, Todd Blanche then asking each juror to be polled, each juror then saying that they agreed with the finding. This was unanimous, all 34 counts found guilty. The former president moments ago saying this is a disgrace, this was a rigged trial, a rigged decision, and immediately turning to the race for president, saying the real verdict will come on November 5th from the American people. He went on to say, I'm a very innocent man, and again, called the whole process rigged. John Carl, our chief Washington correspondent. John, not surprising here that there would be an immediate pivot now to November.
No, and not surprising at all. And Donald Trump will do what he's done when he was indicted in this case and in 3 other cases, which is say that this is a politically charged effort to hurt his a campaign for president. The question is, Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. Will that affect how voters will view him? And we have seen, David, a lot of polling, including one of our ABC News polls.
Now listen to this shit right here. What they saying is they asked the question, will this verdict affect his voters? The answer ended up being yes. 20% of his voters. In other words, 1 out of every 5 people. That ain't shit. That's why he don't give a fuck. That's why I don't know, y'all, I hope y'all don't think he can't win, because he only lost 20% of his voters, of his MAGA supporters. So listen, they finna explain. They did a poll with the whole world. The whole world, Craig. The whole United States.
In the past month, that suggests that upwards of 20% of people who have said that they plan to vote for Donald Trump for president would reconsider whether or not they would vote for him if he were in fact convicted of a felony. So the question is, now that he has been convicted of a felony by a duly charged jury, will those voters who have been solidly for him now reconsider whether or not they still want to vote for Donald Trump to be president of the United States again, now that he is a convicted felon? Again, the polling suggests that at least a significant percentage, roughly 1/5 of those voters, will reconsider that now that it's
1/5. 1/5 of them will reconsider if he's, you know what I'm saying? So he's found guilty. They did the poll before he got found guilty. They asked if he was found guilty, would they reconsider? And only 20% said yeah. They didn't say they wouldn't vote for him. They said, yeah, I will reconsider. And they saying a significant amount. 20% when it comes to voting is not a significant amount. He can lose them 20%. He don't give a fuck.
It's out there. We'll see.
John, stick with us here. We want to go full to this WABC picture from our station here in New York City, Channel 7, with live pictures over the courthouse here in Lower Manhattan. Donald Trump, the former president, obviously expected to leave the courthouse. A significant security, not both because it's the New York State criminal court, but also Secret Service, and they had been prepared for any possibility here. Though he leaves today, obviously a free man. We know that the sentencing will be July 11th, which I believe is 4 days before the start of the Republican National Convention. John Carl hits a very important point politically, and which is the central question of whether or not this changes the dynamic in the race for president in this country. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here on that, but as you know, we've been reporting for many weeks now, this race, even though we are still very early on, is a very close race in this country. They are within a point or two of one another, President Biden and former President Trump, as the country, takes a deep breath and prepares itself for a rematch. The polling consistently shows that the American people did not want these two to play this out all over again in front of the country, but that is where we're headed. And now the question, as John Carl brings up, is whether or not this shifts the dynamic at all. Of course, some political pundits will say this was sort of baked in, that Donald Trump supporters had been bracing for anything here, that it won't change the dynamic
it ain't gonna change
at all, if much at all, for those who are loyal Donald Trump supporters. And the question, though, given how tight the race is, this is going to be a presidential race. Most observers say that will be decided at the margins. It's very, very close. So even if it changes the minds of people in the very middle, independent voters who don't like their choices, for example, that's going to be something that is really studied in the days and weeks ahead, and how the political arguments might shift. We heard from Donald Trump here moments ago that he immediately is pivoting to the November election, saying that that is when the true verdict will be delivered in this country, that verdict by the American people when they vote in this presidential race. Mary Bruce, our chief White House correspondent, obviously covering any reaction from the White House, any reaction from President Biden. Has the Biden campaign engaged at all on the news just moments ago that the former president, for the first time in history, has been found guilty on 34 felony counts.
But this is the thing. Okay, and then I know Joe never finna respond, but the thing that tripped me out about this whole thing is he guilty. He just got found guilty of 34 felonies. And they still in the talk. I mean, they still talk, you know, of him being the president. Like, that shit it didn't phase nothing. It ain't, I mean, it's like he got found guilty, but he got probation. He gonna get like probation. Or they might give him like a month house arrest or something like that. Like, it's gonna be something stupid. So when they saying sentencing on July 11th, well, on July 11th, they gonna sentence him, but sentencing in this case ain't like when you think about other cases and they finna get some time. He ain't getting no time. He going so they can tell him, all right, man, you on house arrest for the next month or something. And yeah, that's all he doing on July 11th.
David, we are still awaiting any kind of official response from the campaign, though our team has heard that there were cheers inside the Biden headquarters in Wilmington as the verdict was read. Look, President Biden has been very careful in the last weeks not to comment on this trial. That, I have been told, will now change now that we have a verdict. Obviously, these guilty verdicts are a political gift to Democrats, a political gift to the president. He is now running against a convicted felon. But don't expect the president to completely upend his campaign messaging because of this, I am told. This verdict is not now going to somehow become the centerpiece of his messaging to the American people. The Biden team is very well aware of former President Trump's argument, as we just heard, his claims that this is all somehow rigged. The president doesn't want to be overly celebratory and feed in to that narrative that this was somehow a witch hunt concocted by President Biden. He has been adamant that he had nothing to do with this. He has said that he has never had a single conversation with anyone in his administration, with the Justice Department, anyone about Donald Trump's legal troubles. What you can expect the president to do, though, is to continue to argue that Donald Trump, he believes, is unfit to serve, and he will make the argument that ultimately it is up to voters to decide Donald Trump's future, because as we have been noted, even if he does face any kind of prison time, that is likely, unlikely, but even if it does happen, not likely to happen, certainly before an election. And so the president is going to make the argument that this ultimately comes down to the ballot.
With just a few seconds here, Mary, before I turn back to our courtroom reporters, President Biden has very rarely even addressed the fact that this criminal trial was taking place. At times, you would report that he would say something along the lines of his opponent is tied up today, a sort of nod to a nudge, if you will, to the Trump campaign about what was playing out here in New York City. But other than that, there has been very little said about this criminal trial.
Yeah, he would subtly needle his opponent over this, right? We all recall when he had challenged him to that debate saying, I hear you're free on Wednesdays, which was the day that obviously court was not in session. But beyond that sort of subtle jabbing and not so subtle sort of jokes, you didn't hear the president really comment on the substance much because he wanted to keep his distance, because he didn't want to feed into that narrative that Trump and his supporters have been pushing, that this is all a political hit job. The president is going to react to this, I am told. The question is how he does it, in what form, and how fiercely and forcefully he now brings this up on the campaign trail going forward. Just how much will Donald Trump being a convicted felon play a role? How much of a role will it play in the president's campaign speeches going forward? We are going to wait and see. Forgive me for constantly looking at my phone here, David, because we are expecting hopefully some kind of reaction from the campaign very soon. Stand by. It has actually just landed in our inbox. So if you bear with me here while I read this, this is a statement from the campaign communication director saying, in New York today, we saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump is...
So this from the Biden administration, this is the statement that they put out.
Communication director saying, in New York today, we saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president. He goes on to say that the threat that Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. He says he is running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator on day one, calling for the Constitution to be terminated so he can regain and keep power. The statement concludes by saying a second Trump term means chaos, ripping away Americans' freedoms and fomenting political violence, and the American people will reject it this November. That is the official statement from the Biden-Harris campaign spokesman, David.
Mary Bruce, with the reaction just coming in from the Biden campaign. Olivia Rubin, our courtroom reporter, part of our investigative unit here at ABC News.
From the Biden camp, just like saying, you know, they cheered when the guilty verdict was read, but the first thing Joe said was, this don't mean nothing. He's still he's still gonna be the Republican candidate for presidency. Like, this don't mean nothing. It only count November. So Joe even knew he wasn't finna get no jail time. Like, that's all I was trying. This 34 felonies, no jail time. That's the result of the Donald Trump trial to me. This one anyway.